Here's Mike McIntosh to open our chapter and verse program with this point about the uniqueness of our lives being designed by the Creator.
So the devil's plan is to keep you away from the preciousness of who you are, because there's only one of you ever made. Never, even if you're a twin, there's only one of you ever made that God thought out and designed to be you. But He gave you all the authority to do with you what you choose. That's it. But He didn't leave you alone. He gave you an owner's handbook of how to make this thing work.
And I'll stand up and shout, and I'll praise you, Lord Jesus. And I'll stand up and sing, and I'll thank you, Lord Jesus. And I'll stand up and shout, and I'll praise you, Lord.
Thanks for joining us for today's edition of C&V with Mike McIntosh. Our current series is in the book of Acts, and today we find ourselves in chapter 27, looking at life's certain places. How often do we think about the benevolent favor that God shows us every day? The grandeur and majesty of the mountains, the beauty of the flowers, the whisper of the wind caressing our skin, blowing our hair. It's more likely we're focused on the disappointments, the hurt, and the heartache that the world has to offer. But when we experience the wonder and beauty of Jesus Christ, the rest of life seems very small, insignificant, and temporal next to the wonder of God's love. Today's study on C&V is part of our current survey of the book of Acts, and this is the second of 3 broadcast days that we're devoting to this topic. Now let's open our Bibles to Acts chapter 27 and join Mike for today's lesson.
In this world, Jesus said, you shall have tribulations. It's a fact. We're going to have troubles. But we're also going to have wonderful times also. So the value of your soul. You've maybe never thought of that, but it's who you are. And daddies and mommies, for those of you with little children, may I just encourage you that when they're having that temper tantrum and they just scream their head off, let them scream it off. You're the boss in the family. If you can't control them at 2 or 3, you're not going to control them at 13 or 16. So it's best to just, like the dentist, pull that tooth quick while it's bad and give them a lollipop. Let them go on to something new. But don't think that that little girl with those bright blue eyes, those long eyelashes at 4 years old that's blinking them at you when she should be getting disciplined, that's her. No, that's her spacesuit. That's her terrestrial. It's that soul. So now as a parent, I realize I am developing this little person's soul. So you develop it with a lot of prayer, because God knows what each human being needs, and you develop it with a lot of knowledge of how God worked with people. You never develop it in anger or bitterness or abuse, physical or otherwise. Never. There is no room for that. You do it in love, because it is in that home that the next group of people learn how to love and how to be a citizen of whatever country. And I encourage you to look at it that way. You are dealing with the future, and that's an awesome responsibility. So you don't want to spoil them too much, but you don't want to be overly harsh and disciplinarian either. It's just a little something I noticed very quickly that, okay, I'm going to relax. Okay, now let's talk this over again. What did you just say to me? Okay, yeah, I thought that's what you said to me. I can't imagine you said that twice. So you're grounded 2 times now. That's it. So your soul. And maybe I'm the only person this week that's going to talk to you about your soul. It's yours. You will turn it in. Just like checking out of the military, you had to get all of your things together and go to the quartermaster and set them down and sign off that you gave everything back and you're not taking anything with you. So your soul is going to last forever. And like the black box, it has recorded everything in your life. Everything. And for you to stand before God and say, well, I didn't know. He could show you taking communion. He could show you anything out of that. Soul, just plug it into the big screen and there's your life. So that reminds us that we are projecting ourselves. We're like a projector. And your body is the housing for the soul. And if you're a scrapper, then you're projecting violence or toughness or meanness or manlyhood, whatever you're projecting. So you project out with your soul, which is a pretty powerful thing, what you want people to think about you. Now you say, well, how in the world would that happen? All you have to do is go to a computer store, go to Fry's, go to an Apple store, and look at the very small, 4-inch wide, 5-inch wide projectors that you can plug into your iPhone or your Android, and you can do a whole motion picture on a wall in a house and sit there and eat your popcorn. But the projector is that small. So why can't God have a black box that sends a picture out so that you can see what it was talking about? Because they can plug some boxes in and it will show, quote unquote, the dashboard of the airplane, and where every gauge and every instrument and what every map was doing at any split instant. So you have that capability. It's an awesome thing to fall in the hands of the living God, because now we know we are accountable. And being accountable isn't something that human beings like naturally. So count it very valuable. Your soul is going to make friends, and it's going to make good friends or bad friends, and it's going to make enemies. It's going to make educated guesses, and it's going to make guesses. So you're going to go on living your life. When it's over with, you will stand and receive rewards as a Christian for those things that were spiritual in your lifetime, be it 18 years or 99 years. You're accountable. On the other hand, if that soul has no recording where you humbled yourself at least one time before God and confessed to Him that you realize that you were a sinful person, then there's no record in heaven or earth that can project out to your Creator that Jesus Christ is your Lord. That's why confession is part of your faith. You want to verbally, no man says Jesus is Lord but by the Spirit of God. Believe in your heart that God raised Jesus from the dead. Confess with your lips that Jesus is Lord. You shall be saved. So this soul, 239 of them, are at the bottom of the ocean or somewhere on this planet. God knows, and there are intelligence agencies that know also, military, that know the answer to that question. So we just sit back and say, 239 souls, wow. Which also means, as a rule of thumb, and this is a factual number, for every person that dies or is injured in an aircraft incident, there are 10 other people that love that person, and they have to come to the exact place to get closure. This is very important, because if there's 239 souls missing, there's 2,390 souls that need to plug into the vibe or the area to see this last place their loved one was. So that means you have your time cut out for you. You have 2,390 people that need your prayers, because their souls are grieving and hurting, though you're not even related to any of those people, your soul. What does it profit a man, Jesus said, to gain the whole world and to lose his soul? Gain the whole world, be the number one, be the Elvis of music, to be the Rockefeller of finances, to be the best looking person ever. If you gain the whole world, that's what he's saying. The epitome of the world with its best of everything is flawed because of sin. So when he's saying, what does it profit you to gain the entire world and lose your soul? He's assuming that the listener is saying, well, the whole world's flawed, isn't it? But if you're a worldly person with eyes that don't see and ears that don't hear and a heart that is hardened, you don't pick up on the subtlety of that. So he offers to you a business journey. And on that business journey, you're getting off your plane and you're in, let's say, Kowloon or Hong Kong, and you just want to wander the shops and you see a pearl. You've never seen a pearl so large and so beautiful and so expensive. This can only go up in value. So you call your bank, you mortgage everything you have, you get every dollar you can, and you pay your entire life's earnings to buy this one pearl of great price. Your soul's worth more than that. Then he says, well, what about the guy that was walking across the field one day and he tripped and stumbled? Apparently there's grass and weeds, and he sees this and he rummages around and there's a treasure box in there. And like a pirate's treasure, he opens this up and there's rubies and gems and diamonds and gold doubloons and silver coins, and it's just, he looks around, nobody's watching him. He covers it back up. He calls his broker, he calls his uncle, he calls his dad, he calls everybody he can. He gets all the money in the world that he can, and he comes back and visits a real estate office and said, I want to buy that field over there. It's not for sale. Well, if it were for sale, what would that farmland go for? Oh, in this area, maybe $200 an acre. Well, you call the owner right now and tell him that I'll give them $2,000 per acre. You're going to go all out for this. Now, why did he do that? Because if he could stumble onto a treasure in a field, there might be more treasures in this field. And he paralleled that to you and your soul. What is your soul worth? Well, in the case of the field, there's a lot of opportunity. Your soul is so creative. There isn't anything you can't imagine. If you let your mind go to it, don't do that. And there is nothing that you cannot imagine and do if you encourage your soul to do so. So your soul is very creative. It's expansive. It grows. It can be used to help people, or it can be very cruel, very mean. It could be filled with alcohol or some drug, and it won't be very kind at all. It'll be lethargic, and it'll be lazy and not producing anything. Or your soul can be blessed by God, and your life, your black box, will project pictures that anybody that comes around your terrestrial will never be harmed by you. You'll always try to bring the best out in them. You'll always try to develop their intellect the best as you can. You'll always try to help them get further along in life. Your soul will project that you will open doors for people with no strings attached. And you go on, and you just look at the life of Jesus, and that's what you're going to project. Now, when it hurts is when you're projecting out of your little black box, your soul, this image of what everybody's looking for, utopia. They're looking for this God-man, and you follow it along, or I follow you along, let's say, and you end up being a deceiver. That really hurts. And deception is a crafty tool of Satan to use to embitter souls, to anger souls, to crush souls. And when you've been betrayed by, quote unquote, a friend, the natural inclination is to never ever trust anybody again. And a lot of counseling is done about people that are still talking about when they were 7 or they're 8, and now they're 46. And it's that whatever deception was that hurt them, they could never grow past it. So then you have the choice of letting your soul grow with God. Does that make sense to you? Okay, you're a very important person to God. He only made one of you. And the person next to you says, thank God for that. We can only take one of him. All right, so there's your soul. 276 souls. That was a lot of people. So the ship was heavy. They started throwing out in verse 38 wheat and other things. When it was day, they didn't recognize the land, but they discovered a certain island, and now a certain creek with a shore. into which they were minded, if it were possible, to thrust in the ship. And when they had taken up the anchors, they committed themselves unto the sea, and tossed the rudder bands, and hoisted up the mainsail. That's where the Beach Boys got their lyrics. To the wind, and made toward shore. And falling into a place where two seas met, they ran the ship aground. And the fore part stuck fast. It hit the sand. It remained unmovable. But the hinder part was broken with the violence of the waves. And the soldiers' counsel was to kill the prisoners, lest any of them should swim out and escape. And the centurion, willing to save Paul, kept them from their purposes, and commanded that they that wish could swim, they should cast themselves first into the sea and get to land. And the rest of them, some on boards. This is the first surfing mentioned in the Bible. They're on their boards. And some were on broken pieces of the ship. And so it came to pass that they escaped, all of them, safe to land. And when they were escaped, then they knew that the island was called Melita. And the barbarous, or the natives, the barbarous people showed us no little kindness. For they kindled a fire, they received us every one because of the present rain and because of the cold. So we can see these are tender-hearted people. When Paul had gathered a bundle of sticks and laid them on the fire, there came a viper. It came out of the heat. So he's stirring up the sticks, but the heat is stirring up this snake, and that's what's going to make him move. And the first moving thing he saw was Paul's hand. So this viper is there, and he laid hold of him, he bit him, and fastened onto his hand. And when the barbarians, the local people, saw the venomous beast, this is a pretty good sized one. In those parts of the world, any of you that have traveled would know, there are adders and vipers, the five-steppers or the two-steppers. You get bit, the poison goes into your blood, 2 steps, 5 steps, you're dead. That's it. No hospital, nothing. You're gone. Now, they called it a beast, so how large it was, we're not sure, but it caught their attention. So here's what happened. They saw this venomous beast hang on his hand, and they said among themselves, no doubt, now look at that, it's pretty confident, isn't it? No doubt, how often we've said something like this, confident in our own judgment. No doubt, they say, this man is a murderer. He couldn't have been a guy that had parking tickets waiting for him back home, but no, he's a murderer. He's jumped all the way to the number one. Whom, though he has escaped the sea, yet vengeance suffers not to live. I would like to hit that point for just a moment because it's called superstition. And it's a rush to judgment. That we say something about somebody and we just rush to judgment without all the facts. And it's easier to believe the bad about a story than it is to believe the good, because it creates tension. Let's say Duck Dynasty, for instance. Everybody ever seen that goofy show? They all love the Lord, the Duck guys, and yet they had to rewrite scripts that Uncle Si is always in an argument with somebody. And they talked about this in an article they were interviewed in, and that the directors and everybody said, you have to have tension. Well, they don't have tension. They're from Louisiana. And they do nothing all day long except count their millions. They do nothing. They're easygoing folk. And you have to have this drama, this tension, to make things work so people will watch you, which is a little bit sad. So they rush to judgment and they say, he's a murderer, and that's why this snake has bitten him, because we live here and these snakes will kill you instantly. So this is a judgment of the gods. And of course, we know that not to be true. But this is where they got through superstition. Superstition has no truth to it. It has no foundation. It's superstition. And probably in no greater place is there superstition in professional baseball and professional football. I'm not too sure about professional basketball, but I can assume. And what I mean by that, if you've never been into the Padres locker room or the Chargers, you wouldn't understand till you saw it. But if you went 3 or 4 weeks in a row, these players, they put on the left sock first no matter what. Another guy may put on his right sock first. He hangs his jersey a particular way in the little closet he has down there. He genuflexes. He says a famous poem. Each one has their own little idiosyncrasy about this, and they take it seriously. And the same with the baseball players. They do the same thing. But superstition is not valid, and superstition is not spiritual. And superstition that you would exercise by crossing your fingers or saying, obla-di, obla-da, or something, some little thing you got as a kid, that is not going to change the outcome of the world. Superstition is exactly that. It's super and it's stition. It's nothing to it. But some people live by that. So they said our mores of our society are related to when people get bit by a snake, their hand swells up, they drop dead on the spot. So this guy's a murderer. That's what they came up with. But when they saw this venomous beast and they were so positive about it, he shook off the beast into the fire. He felt no harm whatsoever. Howbeit they looked when he should have a swollen hand or fallen down dead suddenly. But after they had looked for a great while and looked at him, watched him, and they saw no harm came to him, they changed their minds and said he was a god. Wow, how do you go to that from being a murderer to being a god? That's what superstition will get you. That's what the Ouija board will get you. That's what astrology will get you. You're dabbling in spiritual negative energy, force fields, dark things, and God deals in the light. He is in the light. It's in the light. We walk in the light and have fellowship one with another. 1 John chapter 1. So here we see they go from, no doubt, settled right here. We're judging him. He's a murderer. Now, this thought about vengeance has caught him. A number of years ago, I was involved in a pretty ugly situation, a shooting, a murder, and I was helping the police and the families involved in this. And last week I was at a meeting a number of years later, and there was a undercover informant agent that I was spending some time with, and he was in an area buying drugs and arresting people. So we got talking about that area, and I said, that's where so-and-so was shot one Saturday night. Oh, yeah. And he went on to tell me some things from that, and I said, yeah, did you know this about that? And we just looked at each other's notes after all these years, and it's safe to talk about. And he said, you know that every one of those people that were the gang, that were let go from jail, every one of them is dead today. I said, I didn't know that. He said, every one of them murdered. I said, you're kidding me. And he said, no, it's just, in fact, one was a 17-year-old girl, the daughter of so-and-so, and then 2 boyfriends coming from a gang party down south. And I said, what happened to them? He said, the other gang drove up and saw them wearing their colors and shot them dead on the street. And that was the last relationships to those that were arrested. Now, does vengeance find its level? I guess it does, but vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. You and I can't get vengeance. It's the Lord's responsibility.
That's Mike McIntosh, our teacher on C&V, bringing to a close today's lesson and part 2 of his message, Life's Certain Places. Trusting in God and allowing ourselves to be led by His Spirit will open up windows of opportunities to share His love with others and give them eternal hope for their lives. As the evil going on around the world continues to escalate, we need to be about our Father's business, spreading the good news of Jesus Christ. On our next broadcast, we'll continue this message, and we hope that you'll join us then. If you'd like to review this study, you can do so online when it's convenient for you. Just log on to our website at MikeMcIntosh.com. That's MikeMcIntosh.com and click on the teaching link. And then go to the sermon page for not only the complete series through Acts, but nearly the entire Bible from Pastor Mike. Again, log in at MikeMcIntosh.com. Now, as we close our broadcast for today, I would like to take a moment once again to remind you that Chapter and Verse only continues to be heard daily on this station due to the support of our listeners. So we do appreciate you praying for this ministry. Then if you'd like to be a part of keeping this radio outreach on the air, write to us at Chapter and Verse, Box 231150, San Diego, California, 92193. Again, it's Chapter and Verse, Post Office Box 231150, San Diego, California, 92193. You can also give online securely at MikeMacintosh.com. Next time on CNV, we'll continue our studies in Acts when we'll hear the conclusion of the message, Life's Certain Places. Chapter and Verse is presented by Horizon International Ministries.
And I'll stand up and shout.